Work moves fast, from emails and reports to proposals and updates. You're expected to think clearly, write confidently, and get it right the first time. And every message counts. That's where Grammarly comes in. It gives you everything you need to think, write, and finish in one place. Or anywhere you type and text. You'll never have to switch tools or tabs. Grammarly's AI agents are built for how you work and where you work, so you can find the right words, adjust your tone, and predict how your message might land before you hit send. Your ideas will get a boost while still sounding natural, credible, and just the way you want. For nearly 17 years, Grammarly has been the standard for responsible AI. It's the premier writing tool that 93% of users trust to get more work done. In a world of generic AI, don't sound like everyone else. With Grammarly, you never will. Download Grammarly for free at Grammarly.com. That's Grammarly.com.
Craving the coffee flavor you love, but without the caffeine? Kachava's got you covered with their newest coffee flavor. This all-in-one nutrition shake delivers bold, authentic flavor, crafted from premium decaffeinated Brazilian beans. With 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. Treat yourself to the flavor and nutrition your body craves. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS. New customers get 15% off their first order. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
If you recently renewed a mortgage or are about to, you are not alone. An estimated 60% of Canadian mortgages are set to renew this year, and that marks one of the most significant mortgage renewal periods in decades. For many, this could alter the household financial picture. And times are different today compared to 2021. Interest rates are different, and home prices are different too. Some will see a payment increase, some will see a payment decline. I'm Kris McCusker, and welcome to this episode of In This Economy. We are joined today by Alana Riley. She is the head of mortgage, banking, and insurance at IG Wealth Management. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thanks so much for having me, Kris. I'm thrilled to be here.
I need you to sort of set the scene first, if you could. This is the great mortgage renewal, maybe we could call it, with a lot of activity to come in 2026.
Yeah, absolutely. We continue to hear so much about it. And this spring housing market is really defined by one thing, a continued massive wave of mortgage renewals, meeting a very different interest rate environment. So we're looking at roughly over 1 million Canadian households renewing sometime in 2026. And many of those mortgages were secured when interest rates were at historic lows. So for many Canadians, this is the first real financial adjustment they're going to have to make in years as it relates to mortgage rates, and it's going to be significant. So, we're seeing an average payment increase by about 20% at renewal, while incomes have only grown roughly 4% since 2019. So the gap is really what's driving the financial stress. So from our perspective, this just isn't a housing story. It's a household cash flow and financial planning story.
Well, and the thing that I find so interesting as well, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but not only have interest rates changed since 2021, but real estate prices have also changed because they were a little higher 5 years ago, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And what's really unique is you're seeing different pockets across the country that have really shifted since COVID. And so in the past, where many Canadians always saw Toronto and Vancouver as peak price, price points in terms of home prices, when you look across the country, there's other pockets. Halifax is a really good example where they've seen continued increase since the COVID days and what it looks like to be able to have a home ownership strategy now.
So as you outlined, this is going to upend some household budgets, but it's worth remembering as well that, interest rates have come down a little bit from the peak. So it could have been worse, I guess.
Absolutely. I think, for many Canadians, over a decade, almost 2 decades of historic low interest rates. But prior to that average interest rate was above 5%. So I think it really depends on when you're grounding yourself in the average, because the average most recently has been lows. They've come up, but they have dropped back a bit. So you're right. It could be worse for sure.
The expectations for interest rates going forward, and we do have another interest rate announcement by the Bank of Canada on April the 29th. The expectations, probably not at that meeting, but it's more likely to be a hike than a cut.
Yeah, I think, look, if we all had a crystal ball, we'd be able to make different decisions. And, as per your last podcast, great podcast, the economy right now is, there's lots of different pressures. The global pressures with oil, geopolitics is really having impact as it relates to the rate environment. So it's making this cycle more complex when you look at these global forces that are playing a bigger and bigger role. So, rising oil prices, especially tied to the geopolitical tensions, like the situation in Iran, can push inflation higher. So if inflation stays elevated, central banks delay rate cuts, bond yields rise and fixed mortgage rates stay higher. So even if Canadians are expecting relief or earlier this year, global instability could slow that down.
Okay, so what we have laid out here is a very uncertain environment for people looking to renew a mortgage. What kind of advice would you give someone if they had to go out tomorrow to renew their mortgage? Is shopping around still an option?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest mistakes we see that Canadians make is really treating your mortgage renewal like it's just a simple rate negotiation. And certainly, while we encourage our clients to make sure that they're looking at that, right? In reality, it's the most important financial decision many households make in a life cycle. And so, at renewal, there are really different trade-offs, and things that you need to consider, and also things that you can do, in terms of practical strategies to make sure that you're fitting this into your cash flow. And so, maybe just going back a bit, looking at, what this means for consumers. We mentioned it, briefly around, just this continued renewal bubble that we're seeing and the pressure on rates. But, obviously that's having a ripple effect on household finances. And approximately 62% of Canadians say they plan to cut spending or delay major purchases due to rate expectations. So once again, it's, telling us more. It's not just about housing, it's the broader economy. And so, I think what homeowners, whether you're looking at a purchase or whether you're looking at a renewal, the mistake that they make is just looking at this in isolation. And so, our approach really is to reinforce the fact that, your mortgage is part of your overall financial planning strategy. It's not a one size fits all. It's certainly not just as easy as looking on a website and getting a rate. You really need to be working with a mortgage professional who understands your short, medium, and long-term goals and how they can make your decisions in specific context to what your needs are. And it's, that's what's really important.
Yeah, and I mean, we have to remember as well, like the real estate market is cooler maybe than it was a couple of years ago when people were getting these mortgages. So things have changed in that respect as well. But real estate plays a role in the Canadian economy, which is struggling at the current time. So financial health of Canadians is part of the story for the Canadian economy overall.
Yeah, absolutely it is. And, there's in that kind of one statement you made there, Kris, it's there's lots of, pieces that you could break down and look at, in terms of, myself, I'm, a working professional, Gen X, and, I have adult children who are, new to their professions. And, that process whereby, call it your adult kids, I still call them kids, I guess, in their 20s, move out and purchase their own home. The average purchase price in many markets across the country is nearing $700,000 in some markets, definitely between like the six and early 700s range. And so for many Canadians, that's just not doable, quite frankly. So you see all kinds of impacts on the housing market, to all Canadians, whether that's intergenerational house planning that's now happening because of that fact. We've heard lots of noise around the condo market in Toronto and what's happened there over the past couple of years. And, the shift after COVID, where many people that were living in Toronto or big urban centers decided to move back to kind of respective communities like the East Coast. And so it is really interesting just to see the vast array of what's happening in different markets across the country.
Work moves fast. From emails and reports to proposals and updates, you're expected to think clearly, write confidently, and get it right the first time. And every message counts. That's where Grammarly comes in. It gives you everything you need to think, write, and finish in one place, or anywhere you type and text. You'll never have to switch tools or tabs. Grammarly's AI agents are built for how you work and where you work, so you can find the right words, adjust your tone, and predict how your message might land before you hit send. Your ideas will get a boost while still sounding natural, credible, and just the way you want. For nearly 17 years, Grammarly has been the standard for responsible AI. It's the premier writing tool that 93% of users trust to get more work done. In a world of generic AI, don't sound like everyone else. With Grammarly, you never will. Download Grammarly for free at Grammarly.com. That's Grammarly.com.
Craving the coffee flavor you love, but without the caffeine? Kachava's got you covered with their newest coffee flavor. This all-in-one nutrition shake delivers bold, authentic flavor crafted from premium decaffeinated Brazilian beans. Quality nutrition shouldn't be complicated. Just 2 scoops of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake, and you've got 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. Whether you're craving that coffee taste to kickstart your morning ritual, or as a nutrient-packed reward to round out your afternoon, Kachava keeps you fueled and satisfied wherever your day takes you. Plus, it actually tastes delicious. No fillers, no nonsense. Just the good stuff your body craves. And for the times you feel like switching it up, you've got 7 flavors to choose from, all with the highest quality ingredients. Treat yourself to the flavor and nutrition your body craves. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS. New customers get 15% off their first order. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.
There's also been talk by the federal government and other levels of government about, new affordable housing. And that I think applies maybe to the bigger cities, Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, a little more so just because affordable housing is really open to interpretation in some of the bigger cities in Canada. But that's also a factor as well. But there's, seemingly too many condos that are not selling in cities like Toronto. So it would seem to me that a lot of the best practices or what we believed about the housing market in Canada has maybe been a little bit upended in the last couple of years.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that, our traditional, call it, view on what the market should and could be doing for you, continues to evolve. And again, I think that's why, once again, it's really important to understand, what you're getting into as you, look to buy, either purchase a home, rent, look at the condo. These again are decisions that should not be made just in isolation of, hey, this is what my house is going to cost me, but more importantly, the longer term approach. So a couple of examples of that, Kris, today as we speak, I'm sitting in Calgary. And, we've seen highs and lows, and particularly as the oil booms, it's very cyclical here in Calgary. And right now, our real estate is actually continues to be at a high here. And so you see these kind of peaks and valleys. Now, for those individuals who have bought and they're like a buy and hold strategy, as you see your yearly property assessment come in, that's okay. Like it's if you're not planning on selling or you're not planning on buying, then you're in the renewal bucket, and you can have a longer term approach. for those who know that they're going to be having, for whatever reason, a move upcoming, then you're going to want to make different decisions as it relates to where you're buying, what market you're buying, the down payment, or what all those pieces would factor into some of those decisions that you'd want to be making.
Well, and you actually just made me think of something else that's sort of interesting. Actually, 2 points. Number one, the oil story is a good and bad for Canada, right? Because it's the higher gas prices are maybe a little on the bad side for consumers, but it's good for Canada. And where you are in Calgary that's sort of the epicenter of the good. And the other thing that's interesting is that, if people are just sitting on their houses rather than opting to sell, which is, usually a popular time, is spring. It's a popular time to sell. So if they're not selling, that's fewer listings. That's not going to help with prices, and that's not going to help with affordable housing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head there. It is the absolute good news, bad news story. Like, look, at the end of the day, everyone likes when oil prices go up because, it's a great natural resource for Canada and it means lots of things for us. The flip side is nobody likes it when they go to the pump. And, it drives overall costs up. It drives the cost of goods up. Not only from transportation, but, other supply. And certainly, we have a great chief investment officer here at IG Wealth Management, so I don't want to tread into his waters, but it's definitely interesting times as we see this short-term impact can really have a long-lasting impact for Canadians' overall budget.
So just to go back to the renewal strategy, do you have tips for people?
Yeah, I think again, I want to just highlight that one of the biggest mistakes Canadians make is just treating the renewal like a simple rate negotiation. And, it's really a key important financial decision. And so, at renewal, you can do trade-offs, either looking at monthly affordability versus your overall total interest cost. That is, important to some. Whether or not you have a fixed or variable risk tolerance would play into what your recommendations should be, and whether or not you need short-term relief in your budget or you're looking for long-term financial impact, i.e. you want to pay your mortgage off sooner. So, practical strategies for some homeowners may be you can extend your amortization to reduce payments. You can look at blending rates or refinance, and certainly refinancing higher debt strategies would be a great spot to look at, and reallocate savings or adjust investment contributions temporarily if really need be. We're also seeing that only 35% of Canadians have sought out financial advice for this, complexity that they need to, to look down. So, the recommendation is absolutely make sure that you're reaching out to a professional, help guide you through this process.
Yeah, that's important advice because the mortgage people can do fancy things with numbers and you never know. It's worth asking for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. They can. And that's why we also recommend that as you're dealing with your mortgage professional, that you also deal with a certified financial planner. Because at the end of the day, a quality financial plan isn't just about a mortgage. It includes your debt strategy, your investments, your insurance, and estate planning. And what we see is that clients with a comprehensive plan are better positioned across the board, and they have more confidence and better outcomes.
All right. So with all of this, again, as sort of the background, you mentioned a crystal ball earlier. Do you foresee change anytime soon? Like if people are looking to buy, I guess, I mean, it may not seem like a good time right now. And there are so many uncertainties. We talked a little about geopolitical concerns and what that's doing to oil prices. The trade issue with the U.S. is still not sorted out. So trends come and go, but it feels right now like there might not be any short-term change in Canadian real estate. Do you see one?
Yeah, look, like maybe I'll just use the analogy that if your car breaks down and is no longer working for you, you need to go out and buy a new car or get a new form of transportation, regardless of what is happening in the greater economic market. And that's the same for your home, right? So if you're in a position that you need to move for lots of family reasons, whether that's, you need to take care of loved ones, you're needing to move to a different city across the country for work, you've had a change in your family status, which is making you have to move. Those are just things that's what we call life happens, right? Life happens and you have to roll with it and create a new plan. And so, I think for many Canadians, this does not mean that it's not a great time to move or a great time to buy. In fact, shockingly, the Toronto Real Estate Board finally just reported that sales are up 1.7% from a year earlier. So, in March, compared to March 2025. So I think it really just depends on what your personal needs are, where, what are you trying to solve for? And, you shouldn't be worried or, fearful of the market. You just need to be informed before you make those important decisions.
An excellent point. And I think if we learned anything in the last couple of months is that anything can happen tomorrow. Anything can change.
Absolutely, Kris. That's for sure.
Thank you so much for doing this, Alana. I really appreciate you taking the time and offering your expertise.
Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate the time.
Alana Riley is the head of mortgage, banking, and insurance at IG Wealth Management. And that wraps up this episode of In This Economy. If you know someone that might enjoy it, please send it to them. You can also find new episodes on the Seeker app or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Kris McCusker. Thanks for listening.
Work moves fast. Every email, report, and proposal counts. That's where Grammarly comes in. It's your one place to think, write, and finish. Grammarly's AI agents help you find natural phrasing, fine-tune tone, and confidently write wherever you work. It's the premier writing tool that 93% of users trust to get more work done. In a world of generic AI, don't sound like everyone else. With Grammarly, you never will. Download Grammarly for free at Grammarly.com.
Craving the coffee flavor you love, but without the caffeine? Kachava's got you covered with their newest coffee flavor. This all-in-one nutrition shake delivers bold, authentic flavor crafted from premium decaffeinated Brazilian beans. Quality nutrition shouldn't be complicated. Just 2 scoops of Kachava's all-in-one nutrition shake, and you've got 25 grams of protein, 6 grams of fiber, greens, and so much more. Whether you're craving that coffee taste to kickstart your morning ritual, or as a nutrient-packed reward to round out your afternoon, Kachava keeps you fueled and satisfied wherever your day takes you. Plus, it actually tastes delicious. No fillers, no nonsense. Just the good stuff your body craves. And for the times you feel like switching it up, you've got 7 flavors to choose from, all with the highest quality ingredients. Treat yourself to the flavor and nutrition your body craves. Go to Kachava.com and use code NEWS. New customers get 15% off their first order. That's KACHAVA.com, code NEWS.